Hello, everyone. Welcome to the BBS Podcast. Today, I'm hosting. Yeah, that's right. I'm Stanley, or if you follow me on YouTube, I am Dream Sword, and we're joined today with Ryan, aka Flames. Say hi.
Hello.
And also Sheena's here as usual. And unfortunately, Ryo could not make it. He expressed very much sadness at that because we have a special guest here today.
Frankie
Now,
Muniz?
no, it's not Frankie Muniz. I'm sorry to tell you. I
Holy fuck. Did we get him?
yeah, it's
Hi,
Frankie
it's
Muniz.
me, Frankie Muniz. Well, I'm really glad to be on your show, guys. Wow.
No, thank you. But nah.
Chris, did you know about this, Chris?
Yeah, no, I mean, Frankie, I'm a huge fan. I loved you in you're in Saved by the Bell, right? Oh, you were in Tales of the sitcom, right?
Yes.
It was my favorite
Yes.
for PlayStation 0.
Yeah. Man, going retro. Yeah, you're here. But
Just kidding, it's me.
yes, it is. You might know him as Kirbopher 15 or other such monikers, or you might know him as just Chris Niosi, the voice of Dezel. Say hello.
Hi, yes, that is. You might also know me as Kirbopher with another number if you knew me like a million years ago, but you probably don't, and thank God for that. Thanks for having me, guys.
Hey, no problem.
Thanks for joining us. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So
Guys, yeah, I'm happy to be part. I love getting to work on this game. I love Dezel. He's become one of my favorite characters, so I'm more than happy to spread the love of Tales of Zesty flavored pickle sauce.
yeah, we all figured that what with Berseria, the prequel coming out later this year, and also the anime coming out soon, we figured it'd be a good time to
Yes,
ask
which
people.
I am very interested in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you trying to hint at something, Chris?
No, okay. Let me stamp that one out. I don't know anything. I swear to God, I don't know anything. I would love to be able to do the show. I'm sure everybody in the cast would love to, but we don't know anything. We don't even know if it'll come here. I hope it does. I really hope. That'd be awesome, but that's not up to me. So
Yeah.
yeah. I don't want to give anybody the wrong impression. I promise I'm not even being facetious. I'm not. I don't know. No, I really have not heard anything. I don't know, but I hope we get to do it because
Yeah, that
love
would be nice.
on the game, I love the story. I love
Right.
Dezel. I love all the characters, and yeah, so fingers crossed. But anyway,
Right. Yeah. Well, they did say worldwide release, so we'll at least be getting it subbed, if anything. So
Right, probably on Crunchyroll or something.
yeah, probably.
you can listen to the dulcet tones of Daisuke Ono instead of me at the very least. So
Yeah. So, but yeah, we got this guy as our special guest for our Tales thing this month. So we're just gonna get right into this interview. So Ryan, I believe you wanted to start us off.
Sure, I'll start us off. I've actually got a few questions from some friends of ours, as well as friends of friends. This is coming from our friend Panban Richard. Um, uh, his only question, which is also one of mine, so I'm kind of counting it as sort of like a mix, and
killing two
I think he
birds
might
with
have,
one stone.
yeah, I think you may have talked about this in one of your Kerblog episodes, but obviously you know what the Tales series is since you worked on the game. But my first question to you, sir, is um, were you familiar with the Tales series beforehand? And if so, like, what games did you play? What did you think of them? And after working on the game, are you going to try to keep up with the series more?
Well, it's the first part. I have only played Tales of Symphonia on the GameCube, and I really enjoyed it. I unfortunately did not make the time to finish it because my intention was I wanted to play it with friends because I thought the idea of having a multiplayer RPG game was brilliant, and I loved the characters, and the story was really cool so far. I just didn't really end up making the rest of the time to finish it. I'm familiar enough where, like, I've seen many of the characters from Tales the Abyss and Tales of Vestiria and things like that. Like, I know Yuri Lowell is a much beloved character, and Luc von Fabre and all that. Yeah, playing wise, Symphonia is the only one that I ever tried. I did really enjoy it. I thought it was very, very cool. I unfortunately do not have a PlayStation 3 or 4, so I was not able to play Zestiria. Thank God for the lovely streamers and folks, including some who got it in Europe beforehand. I think what was their name? I think Nikitsure was the one who was streaming it that I was watching the whole playthrough of, and I was able to experience the story. I would love to play a Tales game at some point, mayhaps. I know that they're very lengthy in time, so it's difficult to make that kind of time for games with the amount of shit that I have to do all the time. I'm sorry, I can't curse on this, can I?
That's fine.
Okay, I'm sorry. I all the shit that I have to do.
I have to animate today.
Oh God. That's an oldie but a goodie.
Yeah,
Good job.
I'm glad you caught that.
But I would have to get a PlayStation first, which I need to because I need a Blu-ray player at some. I don't have one, so that would be nice at some point. Yeah, no, I mean, I have much admiration for them as games. I know that from what I understand, Zestiria, like as a game, was like even past the story and characters was very very fun to play. Had pretty good solid battle system and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Looks gorgeous and yeah, so.
And I can just a little comment. I can vouch multiplayer Tales is really fun, very fun.
Right.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing. If I were to play a Tales game, I would want to play it with a bunch of friends. Maybe even stream it or like record it or something. I don't know.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah.
But I know that they're fantastic games. I have full appreciation for them. So.
Yeah.
Alrighty then.
Cool. Berseria, I think, will be coming out on PC as well as PS4. And I think Zestiria is also on PC.
That's
so
true.
if you ever do,
It is.
yeah,
That's true. Yeah.
yeah. So
I'm just.
you don't have to worry
nullify
about
that
getting
entire
it.
answer then because I haven't bought it on PC, so shame on me, I guess.
No, it's all good. A PS4 is a pretty expensive toy anyway, so
Yeah, but I would like a Blu-ray player, and I want to get Kingdom Hearts 3 and some stuff like that. So
yeah. What about Shenmue 3?
I haven't played Shenmue. And a little Grebo, Martin Villainy, who is also in Tales of Zestiria. He's a fan of Shenmue, so I'm sure he'll be getting Shenmue 3 when that
You'll have
comes
to
out.
forgive Ryan here. He's a huge Shenmue fan, so.
I
know it's a much beloved series of all two games.
I'm a late bloomer is the problem. Because I got a Dreamcast past summer, and that's a whole can of worms. But,
Dreamcast is cool. I have fond memories of playing games on there. So.
Yeah. Richard's only other thing, not really a question, but he just wanted to give your personal thanks to you for the Dezel Kirby drawing during the Some Call Me Johnny Supersonic bonus charity stream.
Oh, did I draw a Dezel Kirby on there? I don't
Yeah,
even
you
remember
did.
doing.
He was the one who commissioned it, actually.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I drew so many icons. I was really happy to be part of that. Johnny's a great guy, and it was for a great cause. And you know, it was very nice and feeding for my soul to just do something nice for everybody. I really needed that at the time. I was going through kind of some bad stuff, and it was good. So you're welcome, Richard. I'm glad you enjoyed the icon.
I think I can hear Richard squealing right now.
I did outside my window. He's on my house.
It's like he just bursts into one of our houses, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, thank you!"
How did you walk across Canada all the way over here?
All the way.
Man, impressive.
man.
My God.
Yeah. My last of the Richard S questions. This is a question from a user named Guardian of Time, and they ask.
Dude, Luke is asking me this. Wow, I'm so honored.
Yep.
Awesome.
And the question is just, yeah.
Good on you.
Right. But they ask if you cried during the lines that you spoke for Dezel's death.
Oh well, way to blow the lid off that scene, I guess.
We warned everyone beforehand about spoilers, so.
Okay.
We did.
Fair.
Yeah, and we did an entire 2-hour-long episode on Zestiria. So.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool. Not when I was recording. Yes, when I was watching. When I was recording, I had enough information of what was going on to be able to perform what was necessary. I didn't have the full scope of the world and like the actual plot and everything until the game came out, and I saw the whole thing because I wanted to watch. Like I wanted to see it, and I was interested. And once I kind of knew like what his motivation was and why he was doing what he was doing, and him kind of basically trying to atone for his mistakes at the very last second by saving Rose and basically sacrificing himself. And I don't want to get too real, but I was going through some stuff at the time and was very down on myself. And I remember rewatching that scene again, and a lot of the stuff that Dezel says, like when he's basically on his way out, was more relatable than I would like to admit. And I would say, if anything, it was more of a cautionary tale of like, hey, you don't have to go about it this way, kind of thing. I mean, dedication is wonderful, and it's fighting for something that you believe in and wanting to try and do the right thing. When you care about somebody, but it's like, yeah, but there's other ways to go about thing. Please don't do that. But that said, that's not a criticism, because Dezel's arc was incredibly powerful and very relatable. And so when I saw kind of his final moments, like in proper context, and seeing and also seeing the effect that it had on the other characters afterward, where Rose basically delivers his final message to everybody, and it's this really kind of solemn moment. That hit me really hard, and it was very moving. And I'm really proud of I'm proud of what I was able to bring to it, but mostly I'm honored to be part of such a great story. I mean, the arcs that all 8 of those characters go through was really wonderful, and just getting to be a small part of that for the English production was really cool. And I'm lucky, because Dezel is one of the many, or okay, rather the few, because I don't work in voiceover full time. I've been very, very, very lucky with the amount of stuff that I've gotten to do, and even more so lucky to be with just about all the characters that I've voiced, in various games and anime and cartoons. They all mean something to me personally. And Dezel being somebody that I could relate to in ways that, again, I wasn't even expecting, makes it even more of a special experience to me. I think that's also what led me to want to go watch the entire story. One, because it was less time consuming than playing the game myself, but also because I wanted to see what the deal was. And so many of my friends were in the cast. This is a really long-winded answer. I'm sorry. A lot of my friends were in the cast, and I wanted to support their work and everything, and et cetera, and the hard work of the people at Bandai Namco and Wendy Lee, who directed us, and yeah, did I answer the question at all?
Yeah, we got you.
Cool. Yeah,
you did great.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
There you go.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Right now, that's all the questions that Richard gave me. So I believe Stan, it is your turn.
Yeah, so I'm gonna read the questions from our buddy Ryle. He's our other typical dude, but again, he unfortunately could not make it.
Questions who didn't show up.
Yeah, I know, guys. What the heck?
God.
Shame on you.
It's all good.
A pox on all your houses. No.
I love y'all.
Yeah.
Thanks for writing in. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let me scroll to his, because he messaged me to these earlier today. Okay, well, he just wanted to say that first and foremost, he's very sorry he couldn't make it, because he really loves your stuff. So
I will find it in my black heart to forgive you someday.
Dang. Okay. All right. So his first question is: I noticed that your Dezel voice is somewhat similar to your Zeto voice, but with a different inflection on it. Was that something you needed to adjust to when voicing the character?
Okay, so here's a funny story. So Tales of Zestiria was my first audition when I moved to California in the summer of 2014. I had the illustrious and wonderful Benjamin Diskin, who I'm sure you guys are familiar with as a voice actor.
Mm-hmm.
He recommended me to Cup of Tea Studios, where they do all the Tales games. And basically, from what I understand, Bandai Namco seems to, and I actually very much appreciate this about this, is that they like to not repeat too many, if any, actors from Tales game to game.
Yes, correct. They try to avoid that if possible.
Yes, and I like that a lot, because it brands each one, not in a business sense, but creatively. It makes them all feel unique to themselves. I really, really appreciate that about casting. So I had the opportunity to audition because they were reading a lot of new people. And I was very lucky also, the fact that the people running Cup of Tea, Lainey and Danny, they weren't familiar with my ability. They just had my demo and they're like, okay, come on and give it a shot. And there were a bunch of characters all up to read. And so I read for 5 different guys. I read for Saray, Mikleo, Dezel, Sergey, and Lunar, the fox guy. And it was really fun. And I had such a good time reading for all those characters and just coming up with a bunch of stuff off the cuff. And I remember leaving thinking, okay, maybe I'll have a shot at Saray at best, and that's about it. Because Saray was the more of the archetype that I had always been doing when I was back in New York, and I always played like young teenagers and kids and stuff like that, like Pokemon and things. And then I got the email, I think a week later, saying, hey, you booked a character on Tales of Zestiria, come in during this time. And they didn't tell me who I got yet. And I was like, oh, who did I get? And they repeated I don't think they even told me his name. I think they just gave me the character profile. And I remembered, it was like, wait, was that the guy with the top hat? And I was like, what did I do for that audition? I didn't even remember what I made him sound like. I didn't even remember. And then I went in and they played me the audition and I was just talking. I was just like, listen, I don't care. I don't care about what it is that you're doing. I have my own, agenda. I forget exactly what like lines it was or what scene or whatever, but I was just talking and just sounding generally like disinterested was what I did for him, and I booked the job, and it was insane. So I go in and I remember, and actually I think you can even kind of tell in the first couple scenes I have, I'm just kind of talking, and I realized, like, okay, he needs to be a little darker, just because of like kind of what his deal is and everything. So I went from like, what are you doing, to like, what are you doing, kind of thing. Like slowly you can kind of tell, like from the early cutscenes up until later, that I was kind of slowly trying to tweak it, and I was getting a little more used to the character and everything. So there was that, and also just to establish that was not like due to any kind of like lack of direction or anything like that. Wendy was fantastic to work with, and she guided me through the whole thing, very, very well. It was I think it was a matter of just like me figuring out like everything on my end. So in regards to the actual question, Zeto and Kirbopher from TOME, those of you who don't watch TOME, are two characters that I play, and they're the same person. While we're talking about spoilers, sorry everybody. They're one person playing with two different accounts on an MMORPG, basically. And what I tried to do with them is I tried to make them sound like they could be the same person, but like they're talking to different people that matter in their lives. So like when I'm talking to people that I'm just like messing around with, I'm just like, hey, it's Kirbopher kind of thing. Like, oh, dude, did you see the thing the other day? Oh, that thing about Dragon Ball Z or whatever. And then if I'm like really being serious and like if I'm, especially if I'm like not like, if I'm like upset about something, I'm just like, look, okay, I don't know what to tell you. But so Dezel was kind of more me channeling that part of myself, as is Zeto. So that's part of why they sound similar in terms of the inflection, because they're both me tapping into the kind of like, not dark side of myself, but more like the emotionally sensitive, like, I don't know how to say this without sounding like douchey.
Distant, like maybe.
No, not distant. It's hard to describe. Just like more like affected, or like just like I'm dealing with problems right now.
Okay.
That kind of side of me, which is also again part of the reason why I think I connected with them more than I was expecting, because I think that it was kind of that more like oh, I've got problems I'm working out, and a lot of demons that I'm dealing with and kind of thing. So that's kind of why I think, and I think that's also, I don't know, maybe something about that kind of bled through in my edition. Maybe that's why the folks at Bandai Namco, or Cup of Tea or whoever made the final decision, felt that way. I couldn't tell you, but I'm glad. I'm glad that I was able to bring something personal, kind of, because I brought something so personal to Kirbopher and Zeto, obviously, because it was my own series. So I'm happy to be able to bring something personal to a character like Dezel, because he's a small part of a bigger story, but I wanted him to be something, and the fact that he is a character that dies is very impactful to a lot of people, and it made him stand out, which I'm also very, very glad, because Saray was really cool. I think Saray is a great protagonist, and I would have loved to play a character like him. Robbie did an amazing job on him. He just has this amazing, like, he's such a nice guy. If you guys have never met or interviewed him before, you should get him on the show at some point.
You write him down, Ryan.
Oh yeah. I'm
friends with him on Facebook. I could do it.
He is very much like he's not as naive as Saray. He's much, much smarter than Saray. Saray is a little more on the country bumpkin, like, yeah, everything's great kind of guy. But Robbie's like so optimistic and friendly, like he is, that he was just perfect for that character. And the fact that I got to do something so different too when I moved here, as my first like big job was something like Dezel, which I'd never done back in New York because I was doing all like, hey, I'm 14 and what is this? Go Totodile, that kind of stuff. It was cool. I am giving really long answers to all your questions. And
no, this is good, man. Go ahead.
Somewhat interesting.
It's perfect. Thank you very much.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you guys for also playing the game and enjoying it and giving enough of a shit to have me on to talk about this too. I mean, I'm just glad that people like the game. I know it being the 20th anniversary was a really big deal. And I think the story is great. I love those 8 characters so much, and I'm glad that people.
Oh, yeah, we've really enjoyed the game, definitely.
Yeah, it's great.
But thanks to that answer, though, now I just imagined like all the characters in Zestiria. Like, what if it was set in Pokemon? Like,
I'd be God. What class would Dezel be? He'd be like be one of the bikers. Like the
Yeah.
bikers.
then he'd have a Tyranitar or something.
No, he'd have to have Wind Pokemon. He'd have to have flying type Pokemon.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
There you go.
All right, so let's see. Next question from Ryo is, so, I mean, you kind of answered this one, but I might as well just ask anyway, just for clarity's sake.
Sure.
Some studios do things differently when recording for a series, obviously. When recording for the game, did you have any sort of visual aids? Like, for example, when you were recording for attacks, did you actually see like an animation for the attacker? They were just like, okay, shout radiant heat or something like that.
Well, thankfully, so on the attack stuff, I'll tackle that first. Thankfully, that was saved for the end because it's all screaming. And thankfully, I've played enough video games that I got the general gist of what I had to do for it. So that was nice, and I was able to like have the instincts on like how to make that stuff sound cool and everything with like shouting attack names and things. It was actually kind of cool because Robbie had so much to record as Saray, and I think actually Caitlin wasn't even cast yet as Rose at the time when I was recording Dezel still. So I got to record for the armatization stuff. I got to record those attacks first, and then they had to match me, kind of like the way that the fusion characters in Dragon Ball Z are recorded, where they have one actor do it first and then somebody else will.
So many DBZ jokes
Yeah.
made when it was announced.
Oh yeah. For the recording process in general, the only stuff that we had that I had visuals for were the big battle against Simone, where I have that stuff, and then followed by my big death scene, and then also what I believe is considered to be the bad ending, where they're in the cabin, the cabin, and it's like raining out.
Oh yeah, that's the bad ending. Yep.
And that was dubbing like an anime. Actually, well, all of that stuff was dubbing like an anime because we had the 3 beeps, like boop boop boop, talk, kind of thing. But everything else was all just the constraints were just the time codes. They like so the Japanese clips were already done for the entire game, and basically we had to fit to if say like an attack noise for like take this was like less than a second, right? I had to say like if they go like could I or whatever, I had to go like take this in like the span of that amount of time, like to fit it in with it.
Gotcha.
Thankfully, with a lot of the skit stuff, I think that some of those were not set to timing, so I was able to just kind of take them as they went. And what's also cool is I didn't realize this until way later, is that they actually reanimated, I believe, the lip sync animation to fit our dialogue.
Oh yeah, they do that with some of the games. It's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, which was really cool because I'm so not used to that. Typically with Japanese to English adapted games, they don't often do that. So that was really cool to see them make such an effort. Did I cover all that, or did I feel like there's some part of that I missed?
You pretty much got it. Basically, the only rest of the question was like, did you have any other sort of visual aid? And yeah, you basically hit it. So.
Yeah, we didn't get to see any other stuff beyond like those couple scenes that we were dubbing to. But for that it was kind because I was able to get exactly what the the timing of how the scene was laid out, and I had Daisuke Ono's in those particular parts. I had Daisuke Ono's performances there for me to go off of. And not like imitating him, but just like getting like, okay, what's the tone, what's the distance of where he is compared to so and so, and what's he going through at the time. You don't always get to do that. But I think that everything else pretty much fit, the way it was supposed to be, so it worked out okay. Yeah.
Alright, so, real quick though, speaking of skits, I want to give a little shout out to Yuri Lowenthal, who we also have interviewed for his role as Luke.
Oh yeah, and Yuri's wonderful. He's one of the best. I studied so much from him, and he's a friend, and he was actually voice in TOME in Train of Magical Expertise, which I'm very happy for.
Yeah, Ruby rules, right?
Oh yeah. He's amazing on that part. And funny story. So when we were doing the DLC recording a little later, one of the skits based on the extra outfits you can get was that the characters are dressing up like and pretending to be characters from other Tales games. And of all things, Dezel happened to dress up like Luke from Tales of the Abyss.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I had to kind of sound like Yuri, like, God, what are you guys doing? Stop being such idiots, kind of thing. And that was a lot of fun. I don't know if everybody like knew like who was playing who and therefore like who to imitate in that case. I'm not 100% sure, but for myself, I definitely tried to kind of go for sort of a Yuri thing with that. And just the fact that it's somebody that I know and that I'm friends with and that I like, I studied. It's like, oh, that's kind of awesome. I'm really happy to do that. So yeah, and yeah, shout out to Yuri. He's great. I haven't gotten to see him in person in a while because he's so busy working all the time.
Oh, we know.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, and I know, like, and Luke is like one of his most popular characters as far as I know. Like people love that guy.
Yeah.
And as well as oh, help me, what's the other version of evil? Ash, yes. Yes. I know people love him as well, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then we had Jade from Tales of the Abyss make a cameo appearance as a DLC boss in Tales of Zestiria, which was really cool.
Arguably the most popular character from Abyss.
Oh yeah, and I know people like him a lot. This kind of says a lot, the fact that he was the one that was picked too.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, man, you beat me to the punch. I was about to say I'm giving him a shout out for that skit because I love that skit.
Oh yeah, no, that was fun. Yeah, the skits were always a lot of fun just because they were so goofy and
I will say you all basically nailed it. I'll just say that. So.
Yeah, it was great.
No, those are tons of fun to do, and actually, if anything, again, going back to TOME again, a lot of the conversations, like visually, the way that they were presented in TOME, were kind of like that style as well, the sort of Tales of Zestiria style, or Tales of games in general with the the little
the portraits,
yeah. So that was fun. I owe them a lot for that as well, actually, for the sparking the idea. But anyway.
All right. So his next question is, how compared to online works such as TOME or any other little fan works you've been a part of, how different is the recording process for those compared to the professional world?
Well, typically with a lot of the fan stuff I do, I usually do it from home, just like as a favor for somebody. If it's something that I want to put like a fair amount of like production value in, and not always fan stuff, typically just like indie productions where like they're not renting a studio. Often I'll go to Ben Diskin's house because he has a recording booth around Edward Bosco and Xander Mobus, who is Sergei in the game. In that game, the one that I'm in, I don't remember the name of it.
Yeah, what game that is, we don't know.
One of those. Anyway,
Is it Final Fantasy?
I'll go to their house and record stuff at their booth, so it'll have like better quality. But if it's just like something really quick or whatever, like I'll just do it from home. Recording in studio is wonderful. It's a lot of fun. I'm spoiled very much now because also I have been getting to record on an original animation cartoon where I get to be in a room with all of the actors recording at the same time, and that is a joy. I love getting to do that, and that's not to smite anime and games as well, because usually you do those by yourself, but they're still a lot of fun. The directors are always a joy as well. Sometimes we'll often have because like in Zestiria, we had 3 different folks from Bandai Namco overseeing the project and being there for overseeing the production and the make sure the writing was consistent and giving further contextual stuff and all that. And it was really helpful. So yeah, it's all fun. Getting to go into the studio, it feels great, and just getting to perform my lungs out and just be part of something bigger. It's almost like I feel like, oh, I'm helping to I'm a small cog in the bigger machine to make something really big and awesome kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Let's see. Technically, you answered this one. I'm kind of scrolling through my questions now because Ryo's are all done.
Please go for it.
Oh, actually, you know what? No, I've been talking for a while. Ryan, how about you do your questions first?
Sure, I'll do mine. This one, yeah, you touched on a little bit during our previous questions, but this one's going to go into more detail. And also on your Curb log, you talked about how, since Dezel in Japanese voiced by Daisuke Ono, you talked about the whole silver thing and it's no use. And my question about this, especially with what you've said about the time codes and whatnot, which makes sense for a game and whatnot.
Yeah.
What kind of liberties, if any, like how many liberties were you allowed to take with the script? Like, did you kind of have to, and like, what kind of, I don't know how to put this, like, how big of a liberty were you allowed to take, I guess?
In the moment, see, it's interesting with any kind of production, whether it's anime or games or original animation. Typically, it's kind of a balance between if the director or whoever is having a full scope of what the story is, if something needs to be specific, then you have to do it a certain way. Like I was doing an anime the other night relative to when this is being recorded, and I said it was like who's that girl, and it was like, oh, it has to be who is that girl, because that contextually that makes sense, right? So in stuff like that where it has to be specific, and that's also when I don't mind getting like line reads. I don't have like that big of an ego out or whatever. Obviously, when you're a performer, you want to be able to give your own creative spin on something so that it's feeling like you're adding to the creative process, of course. But I also try to acknowledge that, okay, this is somebody else's vision, and I'm just a small part of it, and I am a player in that world, right? So, I often like, okay, like on the it's no use thing. If I ever have to say that, and especially if it's in an attack way, I'm gonna do it that way. I'm gonna do it. It's no use.
Too good of an opportunity.
Right? Yeah, and I wish I could think of another example that's not that, because that's more of a joke kind of thing. But like, there's like, I'm trying to think of something else. Like, okay, if I have like it's all gone, right? I'll say like, it's all gone, like Falco, like
yeah.
It's all gone. I'll put little references like that into stuff, right? Some certain phrases or just orders of things, I'm just prone to do that, right? But that's not necessarily like, oh, I like if I have to do something else, I can't, combat that or whatever. But more to the point, if in terms of just like the actual acting, like making it believable, I just try to play it the way that, like, okay, if I'm in this scenario, what would I find to work? Like what feels real, what works in this context, etc., kind of thing. Like, with Dezel's final scene, right? It's like, he's mostly on the same level, and he was like, I'm so sorry, kind of thing, right? So a lot of it has to kind of be in that same sort of area, but I have to like, and that one good thing was like that, like fluttering a little bit, like as he's finally telling her how he feels and all this stuff, stuff like that. That's where you can kind of work in little subtleties and things, which I try to as much as I can. But I never try to have it be an ego thing. It is always like, okay, I am a small part of something bigger, and I am just doing my job to make my small part the best it could possibly be, as I have the confidence that everybody else is doing the same, so that it will all work together into one big awesome thing together. So does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. This next question, as you probably know, they do like a lot of spin-offs with the Tales series where the characters will like come together from all the different games. And it's like a big little party.
Yeah.
And they're all hanging out. So in that scenario, if by some cosmic coincidence, they were to release one of those spin-offs in English and it had Dezel in it and you were brought back to be Dezel, is there anything you would want to do differently with your with your performance, or would you try to kind of match it to what you did before, or would you sort of like just play it by ear, or like what would you do with that?
I mean, most likely, I mean, if that happened, I would want to do it consistently for sure. You know, I know like Lloyd has made cameos in other games before, which is really, really cool.
Mhm.
If it were like, I don't know, if it were like a chibi Tales game and they were like, you know, a little like maybe I would do them a little differently or something, depending on like, you know, what the level of comedy is or something like that.
Make his voice even deeper. Why not?
Or most of just playing with the like you know, because there were, and you guys know, because like in some of the skits he like I'd kind of go out of the voice and just be like, what are you doing, kind of thing, right? And like that's totally not like the cool collected like, yeah, like whatever kind of thing. It's just me like freaking out. So depending on that kind of thing, yeah. But I think more or less I would try to make it consistent, because like, you know, sometimes it sucks when it's like, oh, like, you know, sometimes they, for one reason or another, you can't always get the same people consistently for not Tales stuff, but like just other projects in general, where like cast changes or actors aren't available or don't want to do it anymore or whatever. So like in my case, because, you know, I would want to have the integrity of the character kept the same, I would want to, you know, make sure that it's kept consistent. So that, you know, it's this character that I love, because that's the point of, you know, you were showing up in like a spinoff or something, I would imagine. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I feel you. Now this next question, I'm sorry, but it's very, very, very serious.
Okay.
It's super serious. So let's play a little game. Okay, you're doing your thing. You're doing your Kirbopher thing. You're really, really hungry though, and you want a snack. My question to you is, what is your go-to like comfort food or quick snack? Like maybe something like while you're playing a video game or just like browsing the internet or something. What's your go-to snack?
Goldfish crackers.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah.
That was super serious.
But what flavor is the serious part?
Any.
Oh,
Yeah.
you like to live on the edge.
Oh yeah. Pizza.
For all,
I'm so happy my Ralph Carey's pizza flavored goldfish again. I didn't mind about it. It was so exciting. God almighty. Like snatched
And
thing like a snake.
right. And I apologize to all listeners if this question lessened the mood and made it a little dark, but you know, these are the kind of questions that are very important.
These are the important parts, people.
I think it's really important to talk about these things, and you know, and just put them out in the open. So you know, don't let anybody judge you for how much goldfish you want to eat. Everybody out there, I really mean that sincerely, seriously. Next question.
That just gave me a visual image of like Goldfish Anonymous.
It gave me
Yeah,
an image. I'm sorry. It gave me an image of like a Zestiria skit where like Dezel's like he sneaks off into a corner and then he like takes off his hat, and then under his hat it's just like a bunch of goldfish that he eats secretly.
And Rose is just like, what do you say? Don't judge me, okay? I like the pizza flavor. They don't carry it in Garland.
Oh.
Right. Yeah, I think that's all my questions. I've got maybe one more if you want me to do that one, Stan.
Please lay it on me. I'm so ready.
He asked for it, so go ahead, I guess.
Sure. Obviously, you know, there are a lot of people out there trying to, you know, be actors and write. I did some voice acting for a while. I've retired though. My real passion is writing, but more to the point, what would your advice be for young people who are, you know, trying to get into some form of the arts, and they want like some sort of like guidance with it?
Whenever I get asked this question, my two usual answers, or the two parts of my answer are, one, you have to work your ass off. If you really want to take it seriously, you have to work your ass off and get as good at it as humanly possible. And it's hard. It's really not easy. Thus, excuse me, second half of the question, or second half of the answer, that is, make sure you're doing what it is that you love for the right reasons. I say as I burp in the middle of the answer like an idiot. You guys make sure you're doing it the right reasons, because I meet a lot of people who want to be, whether it's famous artists create their own shows, be voice actors, whatever, anything relating to the creative arts. And often they're fueled by, I want to say, illusions of grandeur. Their motivation is, I want to be popular. I want to make lots of money. I want to be invited to conventions. I want to be super famous. I want to be appreciated by people. You can't let that be your motivation.
Right.
Because I feel that if that rules you, you're going to be miserable. Working in a creative field of any kind is not easy. And especially being an actor, I don't wish that life on anybody. It is so difficult. And it's why I'm also very thankful that it's not the only thing that I do. And it's actually not the primary thing that I do either. I've been very, very, very lucky since 2016 started. Actually, no, not even just that. Since I moved to California in general, that I've had a bigger influx of voice work. Very much of which is because I owe that to people like Ben Diskin and Mona Marshall and all my my friends who have been so gracious as to be there to help me and and come up with ways of we all try to improve and help each other and everything. But yeah, I see a lot of people get motivated for, I guess, what I perceive to be like the wrong reasons, in terms of like, wanting to do like this self-important kind of stuff. And look, artists, we're all a little insecure. We all want a little attention. We're all a little socially awkward sometimes. So I get it. I understand. I do know what that's like, and I've been there, and I had to go through a lot of experiences to kind of get past that point and improve upon myself and be motivated for just, I am passionate about this art form. I want to create. I want to perform. I want to, I want to create things and be part of things that are meaningful, and not just like be a megastar, because that's not what it's about. It's about doing things that are going to impact people in really positive and meaningful ways. Just as I'm honored to be part of Tales of Zestiria, and which is a story that I hope and imagine was very impactful to people, especially with a character like Dezel, who went through such a hellish kind of character journey, and to create my own stuff like TOME and otherwise, that I fully am overseeing and work with amazing people to do. And that's what it's about to me. So the advice that I often give is, you have to make sure that you really love this, that it's really because you love this art form, whatever it is that you choose, more than anything, and you're willing to work your ass off to get good, like really good at it. And I feel like like with voice acting, I just say, like, go to I want to be a voice actor.com, which Steve Bradley Baker wrote, and just read it all and better determine if you still want to do it after you read that, because it has a lot of very bluntly amazingly good harsh realities about what it's like to be an actor. And goddamn, I love it. So all that has to be kept in mind to be able to do it in the first place. You gotta play it smart. You gotta play it right, and you gotta just do the best that you can. So and really dedicate yourself. So did that answer at all? I hope to God.
That answered. I agree 100%. As a writer, there's definitely the difficulties. I recently got 2 of my poems published in my college's literary magazine, but it's the first thing I've ever gotten published. And you can go through like months and years of like, this may be too harsh of a word, but rejection from different.
No, I know. Rejection is such a big part of the entertainment business, no matter what you're doing. Yeah, completely.
Yeah, and you talked about the sort of like the social awkwardness of it, and I feel like that's
just us as artist types. That's just a hard.
Well, I mean, like, I don't mean that saying like, I don't mean that in sort of like all artists have to be weird or anything like that, but I mean like, part of being an artist, I feel, of any kind, you have to be willing to put yourself out there in some way. What do you, would you agree with that, or do you think that?
No, absolutely. Well, especially if you're a performer. I mean, you have to be able to get outside of your own head, and you have to be comfortable in your own skin. You have to be comfortable with hearing your own voice, and you have to be aware of your limitations and your strengths and your weaknesses. And then the more self-aware of that you are, the better that you're going to do, because that will come across. A lot of this has to do sometimes more so than just necessarily how good you are. It's like how easy you are to work with as an actor. I mean, you don't want to make it into an ego trip. I mean, there are people who are divas that work consistently more often in film than in voiceover. There are some, and their talent is still to be commended, and I can appreciate that. But the ones who really work a lot are the ones who are a pleasure to work with. Not only because they are very skilled at what they do, because they are great people. That I can't stress that enough. I feel like sometimes that's not. I feel like sometimes like celebritydom doesn't always that come across some ways. Not to be like negative about it, but that's why I just like to. I'd rather be just bluntly honest. I've always tried to be that way. And I've gotten better at like kind of getting across my opinions on those kind of things than I used to be, because I used to not be very friendly about that kind of subject matter when I was younger. But now that I have a lot more perspective, and even when I was younger too, like I mean, I knew what it was like to be like, no, I want to be popular, I want to be appreciated, I want to be loved, and I want my stuff to do well, and I want to be good, and I just obsessed with that so much, and it did nothing for me in the end. And I really had to make it more about, I'm passionate about this art form and about this creativity, and I want it to be good, and that has done wonders for me. I've learned so much in just the past several years, before and after I moved to California, that it's been valuable to me, and I feel like I've gotten better at what I do, and I'm a better person as a result of it personally. And anybody can walk the same. I mean, everybody has to walk their own path, but everybody can learn a lot of those same kind of lessons.
Right.
And I think that those are important experiences to have.
Right. I think it's important that, these things like writing and art and acting, these are skills, and you can learn skills.
Yep.
And yeah, I forgot what I was going to say.
It's all right. It happens to the best of us.
But
yeah.
And I mean, it's a job, and you have to take it seriously, like it's a job. I think, that's the other thing. A lot of people, I think, kind of perceive the voice acting world, because, like, for various reasons, that it's just this magical fairyland where you get to work in cartoons for a living and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, it's hard. It's really hard to get into it and to do it well and to get better at it. Like, you have to know what you're doing, and you have to be dedicated, and you have to work really hard. And there's more information out there now as to what goes into that, which I'm glad. I was just talking to somebody else about that before, where I think like people don't fully understand like why there are good and bad sounding voice productions in anime, games, cartoons, etc., and what has to go into them, why things turn out a certain way, and and what you have to do to be at that level to make it as good as quality as possible. And there's a lot more information out there now, but there could stand to be more. I wish that more people would be aware, because then the people who want to get into it would be more educated and not have their hopes dashed, and they can have a little bit more of a real expectation of like, okay, what do I have to do this? Because anybody can do this. Anybody who works hard enough and knows what they're doing can do this. It is humanly possible, but it's still not easy. So,
right.
Yeah, was that an oxymoron? Was that a hypocritical? I don't even know where I'm going with this anymore. Take me away.
I think you explained yourself beautifully, personally.
Good.
So when's the wedding?
What?
No, never mind. I'm just being dumb.
Oh. Between me and Flames Aran.
Yeah.
Flames Aran.
Yeah. Flamey.
Yeah. My real name is Ryan. If we're
Flames Orion.
Yes.
Flames Orion.
I'm good at this.
Yeah, it's all good. We're all buddies here.
Mm-hmm.
But Stan, try to keep the ships on the down low.
All right.
This ain't Crimson Spell.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. All right. That's a long story for anyone who doesn't get that.
Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, those are all my questions. Thank you very much.
Sure.
All right. So our next one comes from my buddy Kevin, who he is too shy to join. So he just he says, "Thank you for voicing Dezel. He's my favorite character." And then
I love that character, so you're welcome.
and then two, his question is, how did you feel about the big twist concerning Dezel? And also, is the fact that he's a temporary character, did it strengthen Dezel for you, or did it weaken him?
I think it strengthened it for me. I was told up front that he was going to die, and I was excited about that. I didn't know exactly how the structure was going to be, like when that was going to happen. I knew that eventually Zavid was going to be the one to take over the helm as the wind element character after he passed away. But passed away after he sacrificed himself. No, I think because that moment, that big scene is such an important part of what happens to the gang. You know, I mean, it's biggest of all for Rose and Dezel for their arc, but it's also very important and impactful for for the gang as a whole, and and I'm glad that it was something that happened, because it was something that I think also not only strengthened Dezel, but strengthened the entire story. It was a major experience where, we have to deal with the pain of loss, and this is a really bad thing, and we're in kind of a jam, and we cared about this person, and we learned this truth about him, and and this, like the showing in the morning, and even actually that whole night where they're together, and like just after it happens, and you can control Saray and go around talking to everybody, and see how they feel about what's happening and all that stuff is really cool. And then when they go back to the party, and they have the Journey's End theme playing, which was a beautiful song. And and then they had that little moment, I remember, where a brush of wind goes by, perhaps signifying that Dezel is with them in spirit all along, and kind of thing. And I really liked that. So I think, no, I'm not like, oh man, I'm out of work or whatever. No, I had a great amount of stuff to do. I was really happy to do what I did, and to give the performance I gave, and to be that character. Like, no, it's certainly not like, oh man, at all. No, it was like, no, this is great. I'm really excited about this. Absolutely. So I'm glad I was able to do that, and I think Dezel was a really strong character with a really, really cool arc, and yeah, no, it was exciting. Absolutely.
So then I didn't have this written down, but then it also made me think of something. During the DLC skits where Zavid and Dezel appear together, did you voice those before or after the big twist?
Yeah, that was after. We did the DLC after everything.
So then how'd you feel? Were you weirded out, or like what?
No, I was like, oh, fun, yay, I get to come back and do more stuff, and it was fun. I know that they're kind of like semi non-canon. I don't know exactly how it works, but I mean, like,
yeah,
I was happy to just do them. It sounded like a lot of fun, and having all 8 of them be together in that kind of AU sort of sense was cool. Yeah, no, I just enjoy getting to come back and play in that world again for a little while.
Oh yeah, definitely. So okay, now next up, there's a very common question asked to voice actors. So you might have been expecting it already, but I'm also going to put a little bit of a twist on it as well.
Okay.
Okay, so the first half of the question is, what is one of, if not your favorite role you've done? But then the twist is, was there ever a role where you're just like, oh my God, get me out of here. I could like be doing anything right now,
I don't think I've ever had anything like that before, thankfully. Like the latter part, I'm very, very appreciative of that, because I'm just happy to work. I mean, there's been characters that I've been more or less enthusiastic. I always feel bad when people are, oh, dude, I loved you as Lord Oroko in Lull in the Sea, and I have like nothing to say about that show. Like, not because it's bad or anything, or I mean, the character was cool. I just I didn't really see a whole lot of it, and I don't know like really what to say. So, and I just kind of like showed up and I did it, and I did my best, and it was fun, and that was it. So it's like, oh, like, I always kind of feel bad where it's like I don't have as much to talk about on that one. But like I was saying kind of earlier, like most of the characters that I've gotten to voice, I have some kind of like personal like adoration for, and I'm really like grateful that I get to be them. Another one aside from Dezel, of course, I really like that I just kind of got off the heels of is Garmazabi from the Gundam Origin movie, which I just finished within the last month or so. That's going to be coming out over the summer, and that was really, really cool. That was just to be, again, talking about legendary franchises, much like with the Tales series,
yeah.
Gundam. like, oh my god, and playing a character who is like such a big influential figure, and like how he was a big turning point for the original Mobile Suit Gundam series, and the Dawn of Rebellion movie I worked on with. I'm really proud of my work on that, and Stephanie Shea I worked with. Stephanie Shea, who you know of from other Tales games. She was great. And then also another game that I voiced the main character in called Y2K, which is coming out very soon. And in fact, actually, I don't know when this is going to come out, this podcast, but I'm going to PAX East on the weekend of the 22nd, and I'm going to be promoting that game. And I'm very, very, very glad that I got to be part of that experience where that the entire journey of being the main character of that game was like life-changing for me, and I'm so happy that I got to do that one, because that was a character that was very Alex Eggleston was a very character very, very close to my heart in terms of like a lot of his experiences were probably the most relatable of anything that I've ever done. So those are a few, and also Corey from Pokemon, because he was my first professional gig, and he was a really fun character and had a cool arc to him as well. Yeah, most of the guys that I've got to do, I've been very grateful for. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, continuing with the theme of working on this stuff, I got this inspiration from another interview we did, which was Eilich Guardiola, who voices Seiya in Saint Seiya. He told us a story once about when he was recording for one show. I don't think he specified which. But like at one point there was like a bunch of just Japanese executives just like watching his performance. And to him it was like really creepy because all these old Japanese men were just like staring at him the whole time. So my question then is like, is there any like notable or like awkward stories that happened in the sound booth that you'd be like willing to share?
No, I don't. I'm also thankful to say I didn't really have anything like that. The folks from Bandai Namco, there were 2 Japanese representatives and then one from the American branch. Well, actually, no. Well, they were. Sorry. I don't know if those 2 were from. They were Asian. I don't know if they were necessarily from the Japanese branch of Bandai Namco. So I don't want to like be presumptuous with that. But one of them was an American guy who was the head writer. The adaptive script writer for the game. The 3 of them were there. They were very nice, and we like talked a little bit, like in between recording about stuff and everything, and like telling me like they're really happy with what I was doing. I was really happy to be part of it, and it was a very collaborative process. And of course, Wendy Lee as well was directing. Yeah, no, it was a good experience. I've not had any like. Actually, the only time I've ever had something like that before was at all, and they were still very nice, but. I worked on a game back in New York. It was like an educational game, and I had to say a lot of like phonetic like pronunciations of individual letters, and we kept changing them because the client was Korean and they were developing an English language phonics educational game, and there was all this debate as to like, okay, well if we're saying a right, and then like n, like depending on who you ask him what language you speak and what country you're from, I mean, that can be different. So we did like 40 different versions of that, it felt like, where it's like, or na, or na, and we couldn't decide on that. That was the only time where I was like, what am I doing, kind of thing. Right. Otherwise, it really wasn't an issue of any kind.
Well, alrighty then. Let's see. I mean, you sort of already asked this, but again, we'll just ask for clarity. How much of the stuff that you participate in do you actually like play in terms of video games or watch in terms of TV shows or what have you?
Not many, not because I'm not interested, but often, like I said about Zestiria, because I don't have the system to play.
Right.
It's like, oh,
kind of hard to do that when you don't have the resource.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, I'm sorry. Yeah. I do. I mean, I still like very much love the projects that I get to be a part of, regardless. So it's certainly like still a great experience, I would say.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that about wraps up all my questions. So I guess the final thing we'll end on, which is something we ask all the.
Well, hold on before we get to the final question. Do you guys have any like more specific like? Since I know the story, like you guys have any like specific questions about certain parts of the game or certain other characters?
Oh man,
that you're curious about, because I'm more than welcome to. I always feel like most people don't want to ask like the really nerdy specific questions, but I'm more than willing to.
Well,
to
if you're willing to shoot, there is one thing. When we reviewed Zestiria, right? One of the things we brought up is that maybe it's just us, but one of the things we brought up was that during the big scene with Dezel and Rose and all that, we were kind of confused about what exactly the twist sort of was, because we kind of argued it was a bit ambiguous, because now one thing in the game says that Dezel's blessing was actually a curse, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what brought about the tragedy that affected the Wind Riders and whatnot. But then the game also kind of gives this other implication that because Simone was there the whole time, and the fact that she can create illusions, like, was she just messing with him like the whole time? Like, so we were go on, Ryan.
Sorry, go ahead. I was just gonna say, to kind of add to it, I know one thing I was kind of concerned about, or confused about rather, was I wasn't entirely sure what Dezel did to kind of, I wasn't really entirely sure what his sin, quote unquote, was. If that makes any sense.
So what I took away from that is, I think that Dezel, this is my own personal interpretation, I think that Dezel and his friends, the other Wind Seraphim, who were blessed, the blessing people of that land, I think that everything was fine, and I think that Dezel grew feelings for Rose. Like, he grew to really admire her and had a little crush on her, and I think that he let his own selfish feelings about when, like, the stuff with the prince was going to happen get the best of him. And it's possible that maybe Simone was the one who, like, set everything up with making the prince go crazy and like, getting hit with malevolence and all that. But the fact that, like, what happened and that scarred him for life so much, like, it was eye-opening in terms of, like, oh, like, what have I done? Like, is it wrong for me to feel this way in the first place? Is it selfish for me to want to do what I feel is right or what I think is best because of my own? It's kind of like when you question, like, any kind of character in a position of power, like not that the Seraphim are like godly figures necessarily, but, like, they're in this position of power that people don't even, like, fully appreciate or know of them because of their being, like, spiritual beings and stuff. I think that it was more so. I think it was meant to be, like, kind of like a parallel of people who become kind of martyristic when, like, oh no, I can't ever live for myself or do anything, like, for me and anything. And I think that also the sense of he felt responsible for what happened to Rose, and, like, that he wanted to, and granted, it's also perfectly, acceptable to think, no, that's kind of creepy, the fact that he was following her around and, like, keeping an eye on her, and, as he put it, even kind of, like, using her to his own purposes or whatever for vengeance. But I think, honestly, that he just didn't want to admit some of that stuff, and I think it really was just that he had a crush on Rose, and he got all messed up as a result, made some bad choices that impacted a lot of other people. And I think that's also the reason why in the very end, he's like, no, not again. These people have been too good to me and I care about them too much. I'm not going to let that, and especially with Rose, who's like, I'm not going to let this happen. So the fact that he sacrificed himself in that moment, whether or not that was the right thing to do either, is perfectly up for debate. And it's, one could even say, like I was kind of implying in the beginning, it might not have been to give himself up and do that, but it's a cautionary tale, and it's an interesting arc that he goes through. And again, the impact that it leaves on everybody else is, I think, a very important part of also everybody else's development and not just his. So that's kind of the one kind of good thing that came out of that in the long run. And also the fact that they saved Rose, of course, and that, they were able to defeat Simone in that moment.
Yeah, and it really does come to a nice close at the end when they're doing the final fight with Simone, and she's trying to taunt them about the fact that Dezel might not have been exactly the best guy he could have been, right?
Yeah.
And then in the end, they're just like, well, even if he was like an angel of death, it doesn't matter because he was still important to us, so whatever.
Yeah, and, like, even in his final act, like, of selflessness, was enough to make a difference in that moment, and that was what was necessary. And I mean, it's like for people like this who are like, we're traveling around, we're trying to do something bigger and better with with the shepherd, and the whole kind of like saving the world deal. It's like, all right, well, yeah, life sucks, stuff like this is gonna happen, and then we have to kind of deal with it as best as we can. And it's not easy. But yeah, that's kind of my interpretation. I think it was an interesting idea for what they kind of did with the story overall. I don't know. I'm just very pleased with like the overall story of Zestiria, and like Dezel's mistakes and his redemption being part of it, being like a part of it was really cool. And again, I'm just glad to have done the best I could with the material as it was. And I mean, I don't decide on what it is, but I think that it could be interpreted in a few different ways. That's kind of what I took away from it, and I liked it. I thought it was tragic, but it was very effective. So,
well, thank you for that. I think
Okay,
your interpretation is very valid.
Yeah, I think you put
yeah,
it,
I
you
am
put it
valid.
together very well.
Good.
All right, here's your Tales expert card.
Oh boy.
We're sorry, it's mostly blank. We didn't have much ink.
Okay.
But all right, so then I guess our little final bit thing here, which is something we ask everybody who we have as a special guest, whether they be a voice actor or just a YouTuber or whatever.
Both. How about that?
Yeah, I know, right? Would you be willing to, in the character of Dezel, like do a little shout out for the BBS podcast? And if you can't think of anything, I can maybe just a line for you to read or something.
Oh, sure. No, I can do that.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Dezel from Tales of Zestiria. Let the wind guide you as you listen to the Skit Style BBS podcast. Keep on keeping on.
Nice.
Yeah, I said it.
Thank you. That was awesome.
That was great.
Yeah. So, thank you again, Mr. Niosi, for joining us today.
Thank you very
quite
much.
welcome. And I hope that mayhaps you might interview some other folks from the Zesty Flavored.
If we do you want to interview them with us?
I'd be down to crash. Maybe I want to take away the spotlight because I did a whole episode myself, but I would be more than happy to crash in and be like, hey, what's up? Be like, hey, what's up, Edna? Blah blah blah. You suck, dude, or whatever.
Well, hey, whether it be for Zestiria or anything Tales or just anything else in general, if you ever feel like hanging with us, we'll more than happily have you. Thank you.
Yes, we'd love to have you back.
Yeah.
May happens. Well, thank you guys for having me on this. I'm more than happy to talk about the game. Thanks for playing it. Everybody else listening out there, if you haven't tried out the game, please pick it up on PS3, PS4, or Steam. It's quite good. I certainly hope that perhaps the animated series will get an English dub, because I would love to come back and voice Dezel if that happens.
Well, I mean, he's on the poster. You might have your chance.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, if they do a dub, I'm more than willing to come back. I'm sure the cast would probably all love to do that too. So we can only hope, but we'll see. That's up to the godly figures at Bandai Namco and otherwise, and UFO Table and all that. But it looks great, and I'm excited, and also look forward to Tales of Zestiria when that drops. I don't know when that's coming out in the US, but I'm sure
they haven't given us an announcement, but considering it's coming out in the summer in Japan, going by past release dates, it'll probably be here by like the winter.
Sure. Well, then I hope you all enjoy that when it comes out, and yeah, keep on keeping on. As I said, 2 for 2. Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks for joining us.
You were a wonderful guest. Thank you.
Yeah.
So with that, we'll talk to y'all later, Tales fans. Take care.
Bye.